What about now? Okay. Man. Um I updated Streamlabs this morning and was worried about it, but it looks like we've got audio. Anyways, welcome to the stream today. It has been a good while. Man, there's been a lot going on and my volume is loud. R slash Angular is finally, that's cool. Because there used to be Angular 2 and R slash Angular. Um, Yeah, exactly. TBD game, and TBD gamer. I need to. I've been honestly this April was a crazy month for me. And just a lot of things came up between people smashing my fence and um, I guess there was Easter in there, and then um, I found a job. I'll start. I was supposed to start tomorrow, but due to some weird stuff going on, I start a week from tomorrow. Um, and yeah, I accepted a job at Fidelity. So that's exciting. There's a lot of people at Fidelity that I'm looking forward to working with. Um, and so April has been it's been a crazy month. Just a lot of stuff to do, just to get ready for the job and different things that came up, and it was just. Um, I'm glad to be going into May. We'll put it that way. Um, hey, Ole. Thank you, man. So, hopefully, I can get back into just the way life used to be. So yeah, going without a job for a few months really changes just the way you look at things. Um, but I'm excited to be starting a new job. I'm excited to uh, just get things back on track. Um, so I the way they do things, they have certain weeks that you're required to be in the office. So I may have to adjust how streaming happens. But let's be honest, I haven't been good at streaming during the week, right? So um, I'm hoping to get back into at least one stream in the middle of the week. Maybe not two, but I would like to do more than just one Sunday stream. Um, I mean, it's easy to miss a couple of streams and suddenly you haven't streamed in a month, right? So I'm working on that stuff. But things are much better off. Like, I don't know. It's crazy. Like yesterday, I was working with my wife and we ran the power cable um, to the camera that we installed. So on our house, we have a bunch of security cameras. The one area where we didn't have security cameras was the area where they smashed our fence. Um, it, it was it's such a stupid thing. Um, Turns out it was one of my daughter's ex-boyfriends and some of his friends who decided that they were mad enough at her that they needed to smash our fence. Kids being stupid kids, whatever. Um, but because they knew us, they knew where our coverage didn't work. Our camera coverage didn't work. So we've updated that. We've now got better camera coverage around our house. And so yeah, kids, bah, I totally get you there. Created a banger personal website. I want to check it out, dude. I don't want to get rickrolled, man. I'll check it out, but yeah, okay. Am I gonna get rickrolled here, man? You rickrolled me. You're banned. Right, let me see. Oh, hey. All right. Let's get it onto the right browser. Not bad, man. I like it. It's got your contact information here. This is very cool. Very good idea. Um, I love this notion of using TypeScript to create information about you and the interfaces, and very, very cool. NeoVim and split mechanical keyboards. I love it. Um, Very, very cool. Love your website, man. Good job. Um, anyway, um, we've got a mess starting out today. I think you've got split keyboards. I see you meant split. Oh, good thing. Good thing we've got the community helping out here. Um, but it looks like so in the beginning, I I was trying to choose between RS Pack and ES Build, and it looks like I made the wrong choice. So my question is, how easy is it to swap from RS Pack back to ES Build? Um, and if we look at our package JSON, I think what I could do is just remove the RS Pack, so like the Angular RS Pack stuff, and add the Angular ES Build. Um, I'm hoping that that's the case. Um, so let's just Angular RS Pack. Create config, create server. Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time with this workshop debugging RS Pack. Um, so let's take a look at Angular ES Build executors. So browser ES Build. I'm so let's remove let's just see if I can do this. So let's go ahead and shut this down. We may see if Junie can help us clean this up. Um, JS projects can have structure. Yeah. uh, so I think I missed something. I don't see this. You usually have. Is it not doing? Oh, I'm only seeing Twitch. You're absolutely right. Let me take a look here. Um, at my chat box. Twitch. I do have Twitch, YouTube, and X set up. No, I'm not using Restream. Um, I so I use Streamlabs for a lot of my stuff. And it looks like let me see if CloudBot is set up. Because I am seeing it in my multi-stream, which is weird. Oh wait, no, well, yeah, I am. I'm seeing Ole here. And I am seeing Michael. Um, can I get somebody? Can I get somebody? Well, actually, if I just test it right, testing. So there's me. And there I am coming in again. I'm not sure. Not sure what's going on here. Get get JS projects can have structure. um, so I'm curious, and this is me messing up already, right? But npm we're going to remove at nx/rs pack, right? Actually, let's class package.json. I want to make sure that I get the right package name. Oh, that's right. And it's gonna try and do cat, but cat. Oh, really? I can do cat, but I can't do less. That's funny. So, nx. So it's nx/rs pack. Okay. So npm remove at nx. Well, we'll just paste it. And then we'll try adding in npm install save -dev. Or wait, no. Let's just do this. Yes, build generators. Yes, build executor. All right, let's see. npm save. We're gonna do at nx-es build. And then we're gonna build so npx, and then we'll paste this in. We'll take this out. Now let's see if that works. I have a C# and TS background, both way more feature rich than Go, but I know exactly why I moved to Go. There's almost zero dedicated Go jobs, but often you end up with, yeah. So we're going to see if this works. Hopefully this works. If this doesn't work, uh it's gonna be another stream where I spent a whole bunch of time trying to get ahead of things and wound up. Oh, this looks cool. Hey, shiny, right? So let's see, npx nx build, and we'll try building the workshop. Okay. So that was relatively painless. That's the nice thing about Project Crystal with NX, um, is that most of our config files are built for us. So if we put the right tools in place, then NX is going to recognize, hey, you've got an ES build tool. So npx nx, we'll just try serving this and see if our serve works. If that works, then we'll get back into we'll get back into adding Tailwind and then Daisy to our project. And at that point, we can start building stuff, right? Oh, why are we using RS pack? Okay. Looks like we've got a little bit more to clean up. It looks like our serve is using RS pack. Whereas our build is just using ES build. So we can clean this up though. We can go into WebStorm. We can find our testing structure workshop, and we can go into our nx.json. And inside of here, no, I didn't want package, I wanted nx. Let's try taking out this plugin. Right, we don't need any more RS pack. Target name test. So there's build, and then there's application. That's test. That's playwright. Target defaults. So production. We got our plugins here. Build Angular for our browser. And there's our ES build. Our generators. So that all looks okay. So let's go look at our apps here. We don't need this anymore. Let's turn this off. No. Okay, so that's the ESLint config. Our project.json. Inside of here, so we've got extract i18n, nx web, so that's serve static. I think it might have been that rs-pack file there that it was recognizing. Let's give it a shot again. Hey, I'm new to code. What IDE is this? I'm using WebStorm. Testing structure, workshop serve. Well, guys, what a mess. What a mess. Oh. Maybe it's easier to, yeah, that's what I'm just thinking right now. Yeah, there is no auto migration, and it's definitely not simple. I thought it would have been simple, but this one's on me for being a bit simple myself. So let's just we're gonna rename this, and we're gonna call this dot mistake. And we need to shut down WebStorm. And try again. It's open in another folder. What do I have that would have that open? We don't have it here. Oh. Oh. It's this. And there are a whole bunch of node processes that have it open. There we go. So now we should be able to rename this dot mistake. I can clean it up afterwards. There we go. So npx create nx workspace, and we're going to also add Tailwind. And we call this testing structure workshop. It was an Angular one. It was an integrated. That was the name of the project. We're going to use ESBuild, CSS. We didn't have server-side rendering. Use Jest. We're going to use Playwright. We don't have any CI/CD actions. I had remote caching disabled. I just didn't want to deal with it. So really, once this is done, there was a bunch of there was the upgrading that happened, which should be pretty simple. And then once that was done, I added a couple of things to the project. Yeah, it's probably just going to be faster to go this way. I should have done like an experiment with RS Pack before diving into it. Um, Actually, that's not true. I enjoy learning things on stream with everybody. Um, but the problem with learning on stream, when you're working towards like a workshop or something, with a workshop, there's a reason that I chose NPM instead of PNPM and things like that. When you're building a workshop, you want to go for the lowest common denominator, right? What most people are going to know, and what most people are going to be able to solve their own problems or have the fewest problems with. So introducing RS Pack was even just a bad call from that point of view. It was just me going, "Ooh, shiny," right? And that's typically not a good way to make decisions. When it comes to something like a workshop or even something like at your company or organization, you know, doing something just because it's shiny is not a good reason to do something. Um, it's always better to vet things out before doing them. That being said, streaming, and this is one of the things that, like, when you watch people who code online, there's an element of entertainment to what we do, right? And for whatever reason, and it's kind of like the you know when I first recognized it was when American Idol, first came out. Um, you can call it kind of like the Simon Cowell principle or whatever, right? People like to watch others fail and be miserable, um, right? And so there's some entertainment to having a streamer struggle. Um, so um, there is some reason for that, and man, there was a bunch of stuff that we did here, didn't we? So let's pop open, get cracking again. We're gonna need to rename this branch, but I guess you guys can see me doing this stuff, right? So this goes to being. So we renamed this one to main. So now we've got our main branch. There we go. And I'm curious if I try to push this. Yeah. That's okay. We can fix this up. So if I go over here. to GitHub and we look at the latest repository. Go into settings and we're going to delete this one. Where are the dangerous actions? Dangerous actions. Delete this repository. I want to delete this repository. I read it and oh my goodness. XOCOMIL/testing structure workshop. Now I can delete the repository. I have to look at my camera because it wants to make sure it's me. Okay. There we go. So now we were able to delete it. So now I should be able to recreate it. There we go. So now if I go back to my repositories, I can see that one. And okay. We're in a good shape. So we want to npx nx migrate at angular/CLI. And then we're going to do core and schematics. And then we're going to use NCU to do everything else. And then we're going to pin things with Volta, and then we'll update our prettier stuff, and then we'll be back to where we were. It just sucks to be down just a little bit because of a decision. And the thing that like I knew I probably shouldn't have done it. And if you go back and you watch the stream, you watch me jumping back and forth because I'm debating with myself at that point. But here we go. Here's the repo that we'll be working in today. Well, this will be the repo for the workshop. Okay, so that was the CLI. So we need to get core and then schematics, and then we can run the npm install. So nerd snipe was coming from inside the house. Exactly. I sniped myself. Oh no, it's coming from the chair where you're sitting. Oh, like that became such a meme, right? But I remember when Scream first came out and everybody's like, "Oh my, this is crazy." Don't go look up when Scream came out. Actually, you guys know. I mean, I'm happy to tell you guys. It's crazy. I turned 48 this year. So I've been writing software for a long time. All right, so now we can npm install this stuff. And then we can use NCU. So at this point, let's go ahead and commit everything, and we've upgraded Angular. Angular. We'll commit and push that. Okay. I need to quit doing a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, wait, how do I already have a forked main branch? Well, because I forked it. That's how. Okay. So here we can now just do an NCU format group. I'm just going to do -u -I. And we're just going to grab everything. So there we go. And then we've updated our dependencies. And then I use a tool called Volta to manage my node packages. Um, I like Volta because it does like an auto shim when it's set up, and it works really well on Mac, Linux, and Windows. So as long as I've got Volta set up, I can control um, my packages. And the nice thing about Volta is that it gives us ability to use the package.json to pin things. So as soon as I go into a directory, I'm going to get the version of Node that I had when I was on that that I pinned to that project, um, which is nice. Instead of having to create like the I can't even remember what the file names are called, but you have to create dot files and things like that for a couple of the other package managers, and then you have to remember to run certain commands, or you have to set up. I don't know. Volta just makes things nice for me. Um, so we'll go ahead and commit all of this stuff, and then we'll do the Volta pin. I'll add the two packages that I'd added, and I think we're ahead of the game, maybe. Um, we can take a look over here while we wait for this. But here, if we look at our package.json, let's see if we've got Webpack in here. Or not Webpack, sorry. Why am I thinking Webpack? Because of RSPack. I'm looking for man, I'm drawing a blank because I'm so concerned about what I did before. Tailwind. Looking for Tailwind. I'm not seeing Tailwind. So we're going to have to add it. So we'll have to add Tailwind, but that's where we were at the. I thought we were going to be ahead because I'd added the add Tailwind command to the NX create project, but apparently I used the wrong one. So we don't have Tailwind in place yet, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. And this one thing that I wish NCU had was just the ability to see what's going on. But it's just kind of swallowing the output, and that can be, I don't know, a little bit concerning. You're like, oh no, what's going on, right? But it'll happen eventually. I do need to be conscious of the time, so I've got about an hour and 20 minutes. Today is my mother-in-law's birthday, so we're gonna go out and visit. So it's about hour and a half drive out to her house. But I told my wife I would be done today at noon so that we could get going. So, oh, you guys, I realize what's going on now. It wasn't my chat box that was messed up. I hadn't transitioned over. I was just looking at there we go. Maybe that's better. And maybe now we don't have the Giants starting now in the bottom. Now you guys can see me. Ah, what a mess. I guess that's what happens when you don't stream for a month. You're not on top of things. Um, man, what a day. Um, but yeah, let's so like this workshop that we're doing. This is for the Angular community meetup again. Um, and the workshop is you know what, I'm nerd sniping myself here, but there's a reason I like PNPM. This would be done if we were using PNPM. NPM is just slow. Um, like its caching isn't as good and stuff like that. Um, but anyway, getting back to the workshop, it's for the Angular community meetup, and the Angular community meetup has been doing a series on testing. Um, so like last week was who was it? Was it Rainer? Did Rainer do this? I need to go look it up. But they had a good session on testing on last week. This I was supposed to be doing a session this week, but um, originally I was going to be starting my job, so they allowed me to move my session to the 8th. Um, and I believe they got Eduardo or maybe Raphael to do a session on testing. They're going to be doing component testing this week. And then next week on the 8th will be um, the stuff that we're putting together right now. Yeah, Rainer and Elaine. Yeah. And they've been doing an amazing just workshop series on just testing and what you can do with testing. And so my session is going to be on. So I was originally going to be doing component testing, um, but I've since changed, and my session is going to be on how to structure your code to encourage better testing, and how the structure of your code can actually lead to issues with testing, and and what we can do to think about that, um, and um, you know what constitutes a good test, what constitutes kind of a meh test, take it or leave it, and what constitutes a bad test, right? um, and then just thinking about where the testing belongs, right? Like, is this a unit test? Should this be a component test? Should this be an integration test? And so that's the idea of my workshop, and I need to squeeze all of that down into an hour. So we'll probably be cutting some stuff out, but it's always good to start with more content. It's always more difficult for me to have an idea, realize, oh no, I'm short, and then have to try and fill, versus have a whole bunch and go, okay, I can cut this, right? Um, and then there can also be bonus content on the repository for people who want to um, go through the workshop. This is really slow. What is going on? Maybe I went and just grabbed like a drink or something while this was going on and just didn't realize how long it took. Um, but it has been a while just sitting here with it doing nothing. Like, I can hear my fans going. I know something's going on. Let's go ahead and grab the Tailwind stuff here. I mean, we can do that. Um, Tailwind Angular. So there we go. There's that piece. Um, oh, So we want that one. The other thing we want is Daisy UI. So we'll get that one up also. Jan Nicholas. WebStorm is awesome. Great. Awesome to get trolls in here. Let's see here. There we go. You know, I've always been a big fan of Tailwind. One of the things that or not Tailwind, I have been a big fan of Tailwind, but I'm also a big fan of WebStorm. And one of the things that I really need to do more, Jan, is take a look. Take a look at. Can't remove these from my chat. Sorry, I got distracted by. Yeah, WebStorm 2025 has been amazing. But I really need to dig more into Junie and use Junie a lot more. I just haven't. I haven't developed the vibe coder muscle so much, and so there are things that I could probably do with Junie that I just don't think about Junie in the beginning, right? Yeah, that's what I keep hearing, and like the stuff I've done with Junie has been amazing. Um, it's an amazing tool, but I haven't I haven't developed that muscle that hey Junie could help me here, right? Um, I'm I guess I'm so old school at this point that I reach for the old school stuff, right? So yeah, but man, why is this taking so long? Let me go see. Let me go see what's going on here. Yeah, it's the old habits, right? Like it just takes time for me to get used to it. What is going on here? Like I don't even see. Like my node processes, I don't even see them doing anything. Yeah, they're just stuck. Oh. Ah. Oh my. Oh, why? It's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. Hey, it's good to see you, Jan. We will. I'll be back streaming more this week. I want to use Junie intentionally on stream, but it's really good to see. If you guys don't know who Jan is, Jan's the he's the community guy for Angular for JetBrains. Just an amazing guy. But he also does a lot of open source stuff too in the community. So like the X state stuff that we've been trying to get to on the Sudoku game. Jan has been working on a community version of X state for Angular. So that, there's just various projects that he does. Just really, here I am complaining about npm. Here I am just like trying to fill install for time, and I'm just an idiot. Is what it really came down to. Um, ah, it always frustrates you when you're the problem, right? So upgrade dependencies. We probably lost like 10 or 15 minutes there, right? Just because streamer being streamer, right? So let's go ahead and get this added again. And we need to get this one added again. And if you guys don't know, these are prettier plugins that will the organize attributes. What it does is in your HTML, in your Angular templates, it's going to organize the order of things in the templates so they're consistent. It's one of my absolute favorite plugins. Organize imports is a nice one because it will sort your plugins using prettier when you save, but it will also remove unused, or not plugins, but imports. It will also remove unused imports and things like that. So those two together are two of my favorites. So let's go ahead and bring up our WebStorm. So there we go. And close this down. And we need to go into our prettier RC. And inside of here, we just need to add our two. So we can add this one. And then we'll add in the organized imports also. So here, come on. And then, no, that's not the one we want. Organize. Imports. So there's that. And then we also need to go in and with our prettier settings here, I just always add JSON and HTML to this also. So there we go. So that will give us everything we need there. And now we're pretty much back to where we were before I broke everything. So now I should be able to do npx nx build. And I need to npx nx build and testing structure workshop. This should build, and then my serve should work. I also need to do my Volta pin. So we'll do that also. And then we're back to where we were. So annoyed that we sat there forever waiting for me to hit the enter key. So there we go. Our builds are actually working. It's likely that our build wasn't working before. And our budgets are working too. And let's go ahead and serve So there we go, already in a better place. So here, if we pull up localhost 4200, all right, so that's all working. So we can shut this down. Go ahead and exit out of here because we're going to be adding Tailwind. Let's Volta pin. We're going to pin our node at 22. So now we can commit all of this stuff. So you can see with Volta, when you pin, it just tells you the version that you pinned it at. So it said that we were using 22.15, so that's the version that it will always pick up. And then our prettier is there, our package. Yep. So just say we pinned Volta and added prettier plugins. So there we go. And now we're at a place where we need to just add Tailwind. And our Tailwind stuff is here. So we can just grab this piece right here, copy that, and this will add it to testing structure workshop. So there we go. So now we've got Tailwind in place. So at this point, the next thing we want to do is just go look at our Daisy stuff. And Daisy, nope, there's Daisy right there. So we can just install our Daisy. So that will install Daisy, and then if we go to our how to use, there's a couple of things we need to do in our Tailwind, right? So we install Daisy, and then we just, because we're using the latest version of Daisy UI and the latest version of Tailwind, we don't have to do, like there used to be a whole bunch of JSON stuff. We can just add the plugin Daisy UI. So Daisy was added. So now we can just go back into WebStorm. And I probably didn't need to shut down WebStorm. Man, what a mess. There we go. Do I have any? You know what? How do I make you a mod, Michael? In Michael, can I make you a mod? There we go. Michael, you're now one of my mods on YouTube. Thank you. You just got a whole bunch more responsibility. And then who do I have that's a mod on Twitch side of things? Who do I want to add as a mod on Twitch? I want to be a developer. He's here. Um, oh, TBD gamer. I think I have a couple of mods on Twitch side, but I don't. I think you're the first mod. Hey, guess what, Ola? Um, there we go. Now I've got a couple of modders on both sides. So like these, yeah. Thank you both for just being around and just being helpful. Um, and unfortunately, because you guys have been around and you guys have been helpful, you guys also just earned yourself more responsibility. But really, just the ability to time out people. Please abuse your power. Right? What's the point of having power if you can't abuse it? Um, and so, just have fun. But thank you guys for keeping the chat, just keeping the chat fun. And I mean, you guys understand. And just for everybody here, I want my channel to be safe for everybody, right? So you know, good natured trolling I don't care about, right? Like if you guys have watched I Want to Be a Developer come in and interact, his trolling's always good natured, right? Um, but advertisers and crap like that I'm not interested in. So mod abuse Sunday, absolutely, totally. And thank you guys for being here enough that I know that if I make you guys mods that I'll have good coverage. So thank you guys very much. Anyway, Tailwind. That's what we were doing. So we need to go into our Tailwind config. And inside of here, where is my base Tailwind? So I can see the where is my, so there's my Jest, my project. There's all my TS configs. Is it in the CSS file where I import this? It's been a while since I've, oh yeah, it is in the app.css. Never mind. I'm looking for the wrong thing. So if we go here and we look at our, it's in our source, styles.css. Here's our tailwind, right? And last thing we need to do is we just add Daisy, or I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? It's at plugin Daisy UI. Let's just copy this. Is that the right place to do this? It wouldn't make sense to do it in the app component. The Tailwind config, there are plugins here. If you have Tailwind 4, you don't need config. So the Daisy UI plugin just goes here. Is that right? Well, I guess we can serve, right? And see if I've broken anything. if the application looks like it's been daisified, which is a new term that we're going to use here. Actually, I know we're not using Daisy, right? And the way I know we're not using Daisy is I'm not seeing Daisy anywhere in here. And so if we come here and we refresh, like if we inspect this button, oh, that's an H2. This is a A. But no, I'm missing something here. Um, is this, do I have to do this? Let's do that and let's start over again because we should see something in here about using Daisy UI. So that's not doing it either. Let's look at our package JSON. So we're using where's my Tailwind stuff in here? So we're using version 3 of Tailwind. And that's why it's not working, I'll bet. So let's exit out of here because you have to use, if you, I think for Daisy 5, you have to use Tailwind 4, right? Yeah. So let's grab these and let's break some more stuff. I remember we had an issue. There might be some stuff that we need to do to make this work. But let's see if this actually gets, because there should be a comment in the output that we're using Daisy, and guess what? We broke something. So the Post CSS plugin has been moved to a separate package. So to continue to using Tailwind CSS with Post CSS, you'll need to install Tailwind Post CSS. Yes. So we need this package. This should work. You can follow this guide. Thank you. Let's find here and let's put this here. Configure the post CSS plugins. Okay. So post CSS rc.json, we need to create that. So doesn't look like I have one. So a new file, post css rc.json. Is that the right name? Yeah, post css rc.json. Dot post cssrc.json. Perfect. There we go. So now we've got this in place. Add an import to .styles. So we need to import Tailwind CSS. Perfect. So here I should be able to add import Tailwind CSS. And I probably just need to move this up here. And then I should be able to serve. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that guide. That was a huge help. So now if we go and serve, oh, you think it has to be in the apps testing? Well, we've got Daisy 5.028, so there we go. We've got Daisy in place. I think we're okay. So if I refresh this page, so like this button or this has rounded corners on it. Well, let's do we've got Daisy working. So we're going to stage all these changes and we're going to say added Tailwind and Daisy UI. We can commit these changes and push them. And now we can actually start building some code, right? We got about 45 minutes to do some code. So the first thing I always do is if we take a look at our index.html, we pull in the app root, and our app root comes from this app component, right? So we can see that it's got the app root selector on it. Let's grab the router outlet. We may do some routing stuff. I don't know. But we're going to get rid of the NX welcome component. Actually, we don't even need to do what I just did, but that's fine. So in our app component, instead of using a template URL, we're just going to use a template. So here we go. So there's our router outlet. Now we can get rid of our NX welcome component. Prettier. Run on save. Apply. There we go. So now, there we go. There we go. So now we can get rid of this app component here. So get rid of that. And app component.css, we don't really need that either. So we can get rid of that. Delete that anyway. And we're going to go into our app.component. And inside of here, instead of using a style URL, we're going to change this to be styles. And there we go. So there's our styles. App config, app routes. We don't need the NX welcome component anymore. We can delete that anyway. And there we go. So now we can run some tests here, right? So we can add a button, and our class can be, yeah, button primary, test button, right? And this should show if we're using if we're actually using Daisy. And there we go. We are, because we've got the rounded. So we're in a good place. The next thing to do is, I believe, if we inspect this and go to our not style editor, what am I looking for? What I want to do is just tell it that we prefer dark to see the dark mode switch. So it looks like, yeah. Oh, you know what I have to do? I have to turn this off. There we go. So now we can see our theme switching. So there we go. We can now see our dark themes, our light themes. You can also remove the old Tailwind imports in styles.css. Awesome. Let's do that. So all of the Tailwind base and components, we can remove all of this stuff. So let's just rebuild everything. Just make sure that we aren't getting like an HMR cache or anything in place. I mean, I did see that the styles.css was rebuilt. So now if we take a look at this, and as we're swapping between themes, and I'm sorry about the the lightness and the darkness here. And if we change our button right in our app component um, to be like a secondary button, or we can even do like a blue. We'll do a blue 800, right? So we're getting a tailwind color in here. We should see. Oh, that's a really dark color. If we inspect this element, so button, I think that is blue 800. Is that blue 800? Let's try a lighter shade of blue. We'll try like blue 500. So we've got this. We've got the button width. Because I know it's working, because if we do like tertiary, and maybe I'm just doing my color wrong, but if we do like tertiary here, we should see our button color change, right? Tertiary not one, it's secondary, I know is. Button secondary. Yeah. So that's weird. I wonder why blue isn't working. Anyway. Hey, Marcus. It's good to have you here, man. And I did see your message. You messaged me like 3 a.m. this morning. But yeah, blast that cache. Rainer had issues with a test because of a branch in the cache. Ooh, good call out. Thank you for that. No, no, no. I wasn't even awake. I was just letting you know I didn't see it until I woke up this morning. But thanks for reaching out. Not a problem at all. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm not going to get angry about time zone differences. Um, but us talk about our colors, right? Well, let's talk about what we want to do, and then go forward from there. So the idea is I want to build kind of a classic Angular project where there's a lot of logic in the components. There's a lot of state in the components, and then I want to build some tests for those, and discuss why testing is problematic. And then what I want to do is start from that, kind of broken quote unquote application and move forward into a more what do we want to call it? Like a more modern approach that leads people into better testing. So some things that I tend to do, like marking things as protected, moving state to services, and things like that. I want to go into why I do that, and the testing decisions behind it. And to do that, I kind of want to build something similar to so, like, one of my favorite games as a kid was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade games. Um, and you had, where basically it's a side scroller beat 'em up type game. I want to build kind of like a character select from that. But I want the character to select to be buggy because of the way we built it. And I want the tests to pass. And so it will appear to be a passing, an application that has passing tests. Um, but we can point out bugs in the UI, and then we can go in and fix those bugs by identifying how we could better test our application. So that's the yeah, exactly. Our daylight savings are out of sync. So like Europeans and like some parts of India are also a little bit strange, because they're a half hour off, right? So it's not even like a full hour on the time zone. There are parts of India that are like 10 and a half hours or 11 and a half hours or things like that, where it just like time zones are a mess. But I spent some time thinking about, well, what if the entire world was on the same date and time type stuff, right? And that gets even messier. Because like if we all standardized on like GMT, um, Europe would be mostly unaffected, um, but like places like Australia and Hawaii would be completely messed up. For me, it would be really weird because, what I'm calling 3 a.m. when I'm used to being asleep would be, 8 a.m. or who knows what, right? Like, well, it's, 10-hour difference. So 3 a.m. for me would put it like almost three, like the seven. Oh, it can't be that 9 10 like 1 p.m. like I'm fast asleep at 1 p.m. and it would just mess with whole bunch of things. And then like the international date line becomes even a bigger issue, and it just, I don't know. So I think time zones are here to stay. What does suck is like daylight savings time. You know, yeah. Have you discussed the new native observables? I haven't. Do we have um, observables in our in Firefox? Because to do native observables, we might have to do them in Chrome. But that's a good call out, Marcus. Let's go take a look at our console here and just go observable. Yeah. Um, observable. Yeah, let me see if my Chrome is updated. Um, yeah, so what Marcus is talking about, if you guys aren't aware, um, so this is like this is for my Toby bookmark plugin, right? So it doesn't even have like RxJS, right? Like there's no RxJS, and there's no behavior subject, right? But observable exists, right? And we can do observable from, right? And we can do A, B, B, yeah. Um, so now we've got an observable without using RxJS. And so, we can even do like a filter on this. And we can say val, and val equals AB. And so now we got an observable here, and let's go with a 2 array here, right? So the interesting thing is that it's a promise, right? Um, So our promise has to be right. So here's our result. Um, so and we can swap this around so it does not equal. Oops, does not equal AB, right? And if we look at our promise and we look at our result, right, we got CD and EF, right? So observables are natively part of the browser, but only in Chrome. They haven't made it to Firefox. Let's take a look at this in caniuse.com, right? And if we look up observable, so here's the observable API, and Chrome 135, like it's supported since 135. You don't even have to turn on special flags, right? Edge, because it's a Chromium browser, has observables built in. Safari and come on, get out of the way. It's like Safari and Firefox, they don't have it. So your Chromium browsers are going to get, they're going to get observables. And because they've got observables, right, you've got all the cool stuff in them, but only if you're using Chrome. And is there like so if I do like MDN observable, we can see, let's see in oh, it looks like MDN doesn't have observable in it yet. So that's interesting because like we as as Angular people, right, observables are kind of our native language. Right, RxJS 8 will be pretty cool because it can test the browser to see if it's got native. Yeah, and like RxJS 8 has been sitting there for a long time. So I am excited about this. But I closed down the Chrome browser. But yeah, if you guys want to use observables in Chrome, just fire up a blank page, open up your console, and just use observable dot whatever, and you can do like because you've got Angular experience, you probably understand observables better than most. Right, so you'll be able to figure out like that the observable interface, understanding map and all of that. It is interesting, like to array. No, that's not even interesting. That's the way it works, right? So from observable and things like that in Angular, they're promises. That's a promise-based thing. So that's not even interesting in and of itself, right? So yeah, no, great question, Marcus, and very, very exciting things to see coming out of Ben Lesch's work with TC39, and a lot of people getting observables to the browser. Like the idea of reactive extensions, which that's what the RX and RxJS stands for. It just became really popular in Angular, and that's why we know RxJS. But it was developed by Microsoft a long time ago. I was using rx.net for a long time in an application that I wrote or braziers. We were using this application that I wrote on ruggedized tablets. And so people would walk around the lot with ruggedized tablets because, all weather in Salt Lake City is important. Um, but these ruggedized tablets, they could walk around a car and annotate damages and take pictures and do all sorts of cool stuff with it, right? But we were having issues with like event binding and things like that. And that's when I came across the RX extensions, so rx.net. So when RxJS was part of Angular 2, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But the whole point of Rx is just, everything is a stream. So getting reactivity, and when you look at it, it kind of a really reductive take on, RxJS. RxJS is the observer pattern, right? So most eventing systems use an observer pattern, right? Like when you write applications for like Android or iOS or for the desktop, they're often written on a multi-threaded eventing pattern. RxJS is very, very similar to that, right? Like it's an observer pattern. So you're observing a stream of data, right? It could be network responses, it could be button clicks, it could be who knows what, right? And anytime an event happens in that stream, you can, because you're observing it, you can react to that, right? It's very similar to the eventing patterns that happen in other languages. So getting that natively in the browser is a huge, I don't know, it's a huge benefit. And I'm a big fan. I think it will be like as Angular moves more and more into signals, there may reach a day where RxJS isn't necessary for Angular, where the native observable will do enough for what you need it to do. I mean, there are nice things like behavior subjects and things like that, right? That I don't know what the native equivalent is yet, but it's a space that I've been watching, and will continue to watch, because certain asynchronous events just really, really work well as streams, especially when you're trying to merge multiple streams. Like if you want to merge click events with drag events, with resize events, with who knows whatever, right? And get certain things to happen only when certain other parts of the stream have completed, it becomes a big deal. I do want to, I've got about 20 minutes before I need to end. Yeah, regular subjects for Signal Store is huge, right? Adding those as props to your Signal Store can add some big benefits, right? And like the interesting thing about signals, right, is that signals have to have a value, right? And they're values that have changed, right? And so my mental model of signals is kind of like it's kind of like diffs from from any coding tool that you're using, right? When you look at the diff, you get the notification of what's changed, but you don't get really a notification of intermediary saves unless they produced intermediary diffs, right? But when you look diff A to diff B, you're not getting diff C, D, and E. You're getting the difference between point A and point B, and what happened in between there doesn't matter. You're just being notified that, hey, certain things were changed, right? Rx method, signal method, reactivity, and constructors. Yeah. Yeah, and the Rx methods and the signal methods are huge. But if you think of kind of your signals very similar to like the diffs that are produced by tools, and those diffs raise an event when something changes, right? then you understand why they don't work from an eventing point of view, and why my Sudoku game is broken, because I wasn't reacting to events, I was reacting to diffs, right? And there's a big difference, because some things need to happen when events fire in a game. They can't really rely on diffs, and that's what broke my game. Your UI signals are amazing for UI. The closer you get to the user interaction, the more and more important signals become, right? Because signals are really, really good. Humans, we aren't so good at reacting to events and event streams. And in fact, if you want proof of this, spend some time with a 3-year-old, right? And at some point in the time that you're spending with that 3-year-old, if it's not your own kid, and sometimes even when it is your own kid, you're just going to get tired of the constant pestering, right? Why this, why that, hey, do this, hey, do that, right? Like that's very much event-based stuff, right? The kid, something happens in their world and boom, they react, boom, they react, boom, they react. And as an adult, we don't care, right? Well, and like this is me being very reductive, right? But when interacting with children, they're just boom, 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 event, 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 event. And as adults, we're like, oh, does this kid ever shut off, right? But it's because the kid hasn't, been conditioned the way we are as adults, that really we don't care about all the steps that got us from point A to point B. A lot of times we care that, hey, we started at point A, we're at point Z. What's the differences, right? And another good example of this is just like humans. And this is probably me talking from my own perspective, and so maybe you guys won't agree. But recently we had to replace the roof on our house, and our contractor has just been a pain. And like anytime our contractor can try to get more money out of us, he keeps trying to get more money out of us. And so on Friday, I just forced him to give me a final number. I'm like, give me a final number. That's where we're going to end. And so he comes up with this final number, and we stopped him and we're like, okay, how did you get here? Right. And he starts walking through, and he's talking in circles as he's walking through. And I was like, no, I want to know, we started here. I want an itemized list of what changed for us to get here. And that he suddenly, became much less secure in his arguments, because now he's having to document what caused us to get here, right? Like, why did the price of my gutters change? What exactly changed? And, why did the price of the screens that you broke change? And suddenly he's having to take money out, and suddenly the figure, he said that I still owed him almost $2,000. After we went through this exercise of what changed, now I only owe him $800, right? I still dispute the $800, and we're going to be working with my insurance to figure out what the actual price should be. But that's kind of the way my brain works. And, I don't really care about all the circular logic you want to use to get me here, all the events and stuff. I want to know, we started here, we got here, what's the difference? And that's, that's the way humans are, and that's the way UIs are, right? When a UI changes too much, we get flickering, we get reflows, we get all sorts of weird stuff like that, which is why we debounce things and things like that. But signals don't really need debouncing, because signals, when a signal says, hey, something's changed, we're already on an update cycle. And so we can render what's changed. And signals are going to group all the changes, right? So if a value is changed multiple times, we're only going to get the last value. And that's the huge value in signals, is they're really, really powerful for our templates and for our users. they're not so valuable for event-based systems where, hey, anytime a new value comes in, maybe we need to calculate things. And that's where observables fill that pattern. And the stuff that Mike was talking about, with observables allowing us to react to events that are happening, but signals allowing us to react to, hey, the UI needs to change. And signals coalescing those changes more or less, right? And what I'm talking about is very reductive. And if you dig in deeper, you're going to find, that there's some caveats and gotchas to what I'm saying. But from a very, very high level point of view, you can look at your signal-based changes as kind of coalesced changes. And things that your UI needs to react to because your user should understand them. And if you look at like your observable based changes, they're really events that have happened that may or may not need to affect the user, but we need to react to them as they happen. So it's an eventing based system versus a coalesced system, a display based system, and that's kind of where I am with signals versus observables. Where does the line exist between signals over here and observables over here, and when should you use one over the other? I'm still very fuzzy on that. But as we move more and more towards event-based models, we're definitely observables, right? As we move more and more towards user-based and component-based stuff and template-based stuff, very, very much signals, right? But in between, there's always that messy space, right, where we're moving from fine-grained to to more coarse updates, right? The more finer grained we get, probably the more observable we should be. The more coarse we get in our updates, probably the more signal we should be. But there's always that little space in there, right? I like to I read a lot from the Stoics and the Greek philosophers. They had a lot of interesting thought experiments, and kind of the thought experiment that I'm still trying to go through with observable versus signal is summarized really, really well by one of the Stoic philosophies, right? Well, it's not philosophies, but one of the Stoic philosophers had this question, right? He's like, if I hand you a grain of sand, is that a pile? And you're like, well, no, that's not a pile of sand. That's just a grain of sand, right? Okay, now I add 2, right? Now it's 2. Is that a pile? Well, no, now, right? At what point, how many grains of sand do I have to add? What's that threshold where it goes from being us considering it individual grains of sand to now being a pile of sand, right? And it's an interesting thought experiment, and I think it really well accurately, at what point are we not fine-grained enough that we're signal, or at what point are we not coarse enough that we're that we're observable? And there's this weird gray area where nobody really understands where that line is, but everybody, anybody can look at a pile of sand and go, oh yeah, that's a pile of sand. Or they can look at like, oh, that's a couple of grains of sand or whatever, right? And it doesn't have to necessarily be rocks. It can be pebbles or, grains of wheat or who knows what, right? I think the original argument was grains of wheat, and then they moved it to pebbles and then sand, if I remember correctly. But there's always that, that thought experiment of, at what point do we move from one thing to another? And I don't know. Yeah, I've sniped myself, right? Like the whole ship of Theseus argument, right? As I'm thinking through this, this is a fascinating, another fascinating thought experiment that came from the Greeks. But say, I replace a board in the side of a ship, right? Is it the same ship, right? and we go along this thought experiment to where I've replaced every piece of that ship over time, is that the same ship? Right? And most people would argue that yeah, that's the same ship, right? It's just been replaced over time, but none of the original components are there. Everything's been replaced. It's now a new ship. You could argue that it's a new ship that was built with the exact pattern of the old ship, right? And then the thought experiment continues. Well, what if I kept all the old stuff and I built a ship out of all the parts that I replaced? Now, is the old ship, or is the ship built out of the old parts of the original ship? Is that the original ship, or is the ship that I replaced everything on, right? And this gets into interesting discussions about like rewriting code and right. So like looking into the old Stoic philosophers. And Stoicism's an interesting thing, but their arguments, right? Like one of the Socrates was a famous Stoic philosopher, and the reason that they're called Stoics is there was a porch in the middle of the agora, the marketplace, and that porch was called the Stoa, and anybody could go there and share their ideas and have discussions with anybody about anything, and arguments often broke out there. But the Stoics took their name from the idea of that porch in the middle of the agora, to where all of our ideas should be in public and things like that. So the Stoic philosophers, a lot of them are based on the idea of the Stoa in the agora, the market. And so they've got a lot of interesting, like if you want to go down a rabbit hole, read some of the thought experiments from the Stoic philosophers. Yeah. Linkman Vlad, hello. Have you seen this repo before? Angular Wave. How many of them can I solve? I could probably solve all of them, would be my guess. Here I am being overconfident, right? RxJS challenge. Yeah. So who's Alex? Alex Inkin. Like Waterplea and Roman. These names sound very familiar to me. Yeah, this one's not difficult. Create a page visibility stream. Yeah, so make it a global DI injection token. Yeah, not too difficult here. You would use an observable from on an intersection observer, right? This one's not too difficult, and making it a global DI injection token actually makes it much more useful to you. And you could even use a DI injection factory so that you could pass it an intersection observer and it could do it for you, right? The other thing you could do is potentially make this like a directive, and then use directives to set up visibility. Show error message for 5 seconds if login failed. Yeah. Show username instead of button upon successful login, and disable button during. Yeah, this one's not too difficult either. This one is using some global observables mixed with some HTTP observables. Make a loading with progress bar until result. This one is actually probably simpler than the ones above it. Create a countdown and a button to restart it. This is 2 observables, right? So you've got the countdown button, which is just an interval observable, and then you've got another observable, which is the button click observable. When the button click observable emits, then you set the interval observable. You can restart the interval observable. So yeah, write a stream of selected seats for users of a cinema website. This one's interesting, and very cool, but I would actually do this one with a signal. Um, Make a sticky header that disappears when you scroll down and reappears when you scroll up. Again, this is a scroll observer, and not too difficult. Make an operator function to prevent unnecessary backend requests when it's possible to calculate items locally. This is caching, and we've actually built this into a couple of projects that we've done on stream. We didn't actually create an operator, but wouldn't be too difficult to do. Make subtitles appear in pairs for a karaoke game. That's cool. And this one, I think they did as a contest at one of the NG comps, but not too bad. This is just a zip. Make a color picker. I've actually done this on stream a couple of times, but I haven't used an observable for it. I've just used Angular bindings for it. Make a toast notification disappear in 3 seconds unless the user holds a cursor over it. So here we've got again an interval observer, and then we've got the mouse events observable from, and then this one, instead of using erase, we would use a concat maybe. We need something that would make sure that everything completes. I'd have to look up the operator that I would use here. Not too bad. Make a modal close on escape key by clicking outside. This is a huge only clicks that both started and ended outside count. So this is a huge like this is a big reason that you would get into RxJS, right? Or Rx extensions in and of themselves, because this is two streams. You've got the escape key stream, but you've got the click stream, but they added this caveat here. And the reason for this caveat is, say this is the modal here, and let's say I drag my mouse and then release it. That is counted as a click event that happens outside here, right? Even though the mouse down happened here, the click up happened here, which means that if I'm dragging things outside of the modal, that dismissing the modal is not necessarily what I wanted to have happen. Or like maybe I'm trying to highlight the text and I accidentally go outside of the modal, right? There are reasons why you don't want the modal to disappear. And so this becomes 3 streams, right? It's the escape, it's the key stream that you would filter for the escape key, right? And then it's the mouse downstream and the mouse upstream, and you need to filter to make sure that the mouse down, well, you could do this with 2 streams, because you could switch map over to the mouse upstream if the mouse down happened outside. And the other thing is, like, if you dragged inside, you're probably dragging something into the dialog box. So like say maybe like an upload file or things like that. Right, like you could do this with 2 streams. You would have one stream that's filtered on, it'd be your key, would be your key upstream that's filtered on the escape key, your key downstream that's filtered on coordinates outside of the modal, that then switch maps over to the key upstream, and then checks if you're outside the dialog, right? Like if I drag here, that should still close it and things like that. So interesting. This one's very interesting. Make a sticky header that shrinks proportionally when you scroll down. Common pattern for mobile devices. We did this actually with the what stream was that? But basically we made our headers shrink and do weird things. This is not as simple as it sounds, um, because the areas inside the page change as the header shrinks, and there's a whole bunch. Like there were a whole bunch of things that we discovered that made this a tricky one to solve. You have an area with folders. Allow the user to select several folders, dragging their mouse like on the desktop. Um, so, I mean, your desktop is doing something very similar to this when you do a drag and drop. Even this text highlighting is doing something similar, where with the mouse down, as you're dragging over things, right, you're calculating, as you drag, you're calculating a box, right? And then inside of that box, you need to look for elements that are hit. This is just a mouse down that switch maps over to a mouse upstream that calculates screen space box. And then based on that screen space box, then you're calculating, what elements were hit inside of that area. And then you're setting them to be being selected. If your selected stuff is an observable, there's two observables here. If it's a signal, there's only one observable here, which is the mouse down and mouse up with to calculate the box, your hit box basically. Determine whether an element was focused with keyboard, mouse, touch, or programmatically. This one's interesting, but you've got all of these events that basically you would just bring a bunch of event streams together and you could determine that. There's a picture with some preview app that handles user events and collects them in 3 streams: drag, rotation, and zoom. Yeah. So this is really, really common with drag or image editing. And they're giving you the streams here. So not too difficult. Create a no flicker loading message. If loading took less than 1 second, do not show it. If loading took greater than 1 second, show it for at least 1 second. So this one is fascinating, but not too difficult. So you've basically got a race condition here. Well, it would be a race, right? Where you've got the loading, and if the loading goes longer than once, or it finishes in less than 1 second, you'll never show anything. You've got a second observable that is going to show. This one we would have to draw out. Me explaining it with words wouldn't work, but you've basically got two observable streams here and a race operator. But basically, well, you need a third that would count your 1 second. So there's some interesting things here. But how you would structure that, this is an interesting challenge. I could solve it. It would take some time to do it. This one, not too difficult. Pull to refresh behavior is not too difficult. Create observable based on request animation frame and show FPS meter. Yeah, this one's not bad. You can just use request animation frame and use an observable from, and then you can see how often we're requesting animation frames, and then you can use that to calculate your FPS. Create classic material ripple. This one is not too difficult. I've done this one before at a job, but this one takes time and thought and effort. But yeah, not too bad. No intersection observer. Visibility state event from window. Oh, interesting. You start not from blank in template they create. Oh, okay. Okay. These are good. Like, these are good challenges. I like them. And it makes sense that they're very UI focused because they're the Taiga creators, and Taiga UI is very, very cool. Have a lot of respect for them. So a lot of cool stuff here. Thanks for sharing. Very, very cool. You definitely sniped me. Oh, I gotta end, you guys. My wife, that explains why she's going in and out of the garage. I need to go out. It's my mother-in-law's birthday today, so we're gonna go visit her. So I need to end. Tomorrow, what we're going to do, we want to create some colors. Um, so um, I want to create colors specifically. Um, the colors I want to create are Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, and Leonardo. Right, those are the colors I want to use because I want to use the turtle color names in the project just as a nod to the fact that we're using Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, so um, we'll be streaming a couple of times this week. I don't know what days I will be streaming. There's some things I need to accomplish this week. I'm doing some things in the yard with sprinklers, and I need to rewire some things. But I definitely I have to end here. Um, but thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the amazing shares and the great questions. And I do apologize that I picked RS Pack and it just didn't work out. But we'll definitely build some code. We'll build an application this week. Just have some fun. The streams will probably pop up randomly during the week because I've got some time. Um, and then next Sunday we'll review where we are because next Sunday is the Sunday before the stream, and that may be where we start creating the documents that will be used for the workshop. So looking forward to building the application and then building it poorly and then building it properly, right? I'm looking forward to that. So you guys have a great rest of your day. We will see you